cell phone number.
Yeah.
And for kids, there are versions of that too. You know, if somebody plays a silly game with the mask before putting it on you.
Oh, yeah.
And you had a silly time with the mask, that's a resource.
Right. There's a ER nurse he used to be at MGH, and where my kids would go for their MRIs, and he was like that. He was had a real good way of helping. He must have known, part of his training, but he had a knack for it, of just really detoxifying the mask, all these procedures that are just terrifying. He'd have these kids laughing, or at least less scared.
Yeah. And sometimes people can rehearse the experiences before they happen in ways that are silly and fun, where they're doing, instead of going into the MRI machine, they're, I don't know, laying on the dining room table and they're making a joke and you're kind of talking about, I don't know. You can kind of, if you can make things into play and you can space them out and you can help the child. I mean, the child is just trying to organize what happens to them. And they want to know whether or not they're going to be safe. And they want to know whether or not the experience was a fluke or not. And so kind of coming back to that first thing I told you about defining trauma, that trauma is a dysregulation in your ability to tell when you're safe and when you're not, then you're really helping a child be resilient, is to be able to feel when they're safe and feel when it's over and orient around them, like look around and notice that they're okay. Because that's one of the things that we do when you have a big, scary physical experience. You have a fall. What happened to me? You check your body. You make sure that your limbs are still there.
Right away.
Right?
Yep.
And you shake. Right?
Yep.
And then at some point you take some deep breaths and you look around. And all humans do this. Right?
Yeah. Like if you trip.
Primates do this.
You're looking around to make sure nobody watched you and is laughing. Yeah.
What happened to me? Am I okay? You check.
Yep.
You may be kind of playing over in your mind, like, oh, I did this, and oh, I should have caught myself right here. And if it was scary enough, you'll shake. And then you're looking around. So any orienting that you can do where you're physically moving your neck around is part of helping your nervous system, because it's not about logic, right? It's not about your logical brain knowing exactly what happened as much as it is about your body being able to notice the safety of the moment. The safety of the here and now is the most useful tool for organizing a person after a trauma than any of the tools that you have. Because in this moment, there's not a bear chasing you.
That's wonderful. I think that I could definitely have another part 2 to this discussion, and I hope that you'll be willing, because it's very helpful, and I think it'll help a lot of parents out there. I mean, it's been helpful for me, of course, but I think it really will. I appreciate your time and the energy and work you put into prepping for this.
Thank you. I'm happy to talk about this.
Okay, great.
Like I said, because my experience, first I was interested in trauma, and then I had this experience with my kid. It really influenced where I felt drawn to be useful in my profession, and kind of the people that I work with the most. I work with caregivers of medically complex kids and neurodivergent kids. And then I work with people with chronic illnesses and with trauma and medical trauma, because I think it's important. Especially for people where you're living, if you've got a chronic condition where periodically there are emergencies, you have kind of an ongoing situation in which you're regularly going into a scary situation, and then you're having to figure out how to come back out of it. And then you're going along and you go back into the scary situation. It's really, really easy to get hyper all the time.
Oh, yes.
Because you're having enough experiences where you're going into something awful.
You got to be ready.
It's just hard to
all the time. You got to be ready.
And you may logically know that right now, little Johnny is relatively safe, but your body is not necessarily agreeing with you on that. And maybe you're awake all night, or awake enough that it's affecting your general level of sleep, or maybe you feel like your mind is racing all the time and it's hard to concentrate, but you feel anxious. And So helping a person be able to feel when they're safe and when they are not, when they are regularly going into situations that are scary, is really just really important. It's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to talk to you about it anytime because it's my passion.
I love it. I think it's such great work you're doing, and really glad to have connected and hear this. So thank you so much, Caroline.
While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time.